The last few updates with Dead Cells has brought along a lot of sweeping changes, and that means some really gimmicky builds have started to come up. The one that I want to try out today was suggested to me on Twitter using the Thunder Shield and the Hokuto's Bow. The Hokuto's Bow, of course, being the classic way to buff up any sort of damage over time build, and the Thunder Shield now having a new form of damage over time, Shock. Shock is, I mean, it's pretty standard as far as damage over time goes. It just, does damage over time, but it also will apply it to enemies around you. Add that to the fact that the shield will also hit enemies in a pretty large area, and the way that it's going to be buffed up by the Hokuto's Bow. Maybe this is something? I don't know. I mean, it certainly is quite gimmicky, but it's gimmicky in a way that still might work. After all, one of the great things about the Thunder Shield is that you can still attack enemies just by holding out the shield. So even if I'm not getting the special parry abilities, maybe I can make this work anyway? The other thing, of course, is that the new update has brought along a lot of changes to just enemies and health and everything like that, so tactics is suddenly a little bit more viable, at least from what it used to be. Just getting a lot of extra health and having enemies deal less damage makes such a huge difference. So although I don't know about using a shield as your main method of attacking, but we are talking about a build with the Hokuto's Bow, an item so good that I have banned myself from using it in normal showcase runs. Obviously, this is a little bit different circumstance. But I don't know. I mean, it's... a lot of this is going to be highly dependent on me actually getting parries. As always, when it comes to shields, you are working with a more, I don't know, I guess I would say passive form of gameplay. And that can be a little bit rough to get used to, especially given how fast I usually try to go through the game in general. But if I can make it work, I mean, after all, damage over time, and especially like super new gimmicky damage over time, I've used these things for so long. I've touted how great they are. I feel like if something weird or different in the world of damage over time is coming up, then yeah, this is definitely... Oh, come on, just break out of that already. This is definitely one that I should be exploring as much as I possibly can. It could also be that I'll just die halfway through this build, halfway through trying to get this build to work, and then just be like, maybe not. In fact, it's not looking super great right now. Oh, come on. I know that there's a rampager over here. Just got to get one parry, hit somebody with that, and then... Yeah, so this is going to be a weird one. This is going to be a weird one, but it might be one that, especially by end game, I'm going to say, could really be something very good. It's just... Shield gameplay has always been one of those weird things. One of the more common types of recommendations for runs that I get is trying to go like double shields or something, which, while interesting, is just... It's too much. It's too difficult to actually, truly try and get working. But hey, this is getting close to that, so that's cool at least. It's just... trying to hit enemies with arrows and then trying to also get parries, especially against like rats, which are very rough enemies to actually parry at any point in time, regardless of what sort of shield you're using. Yeah, I don't know. Well, of course, I do also have just, zapping them with the electricity. Unfortunately, that does not actually do the shock damage. I think it just does electric DPS, which is a strange decision on the part of Motion Twin, but... that's just how it be. I don't know. This is an unusual run. I mean, it should go without saying that it's like, even if this wasn't, damage over time, my bread and butter when it comes to getting a good run going, the idea of just how gimmicky and weird this is, I think is worth checking out. Like, come on. How many times are you going to see a run like this really work? The last time I'm thinking is back in the Brutal update when... Good. Back in like the Brutal update when the shield was king just because the assassin was a final boss and the assassin was so well countered by them. And just with how health would scale you would actually be able to get a lot of damage out of shields alone while also being very... Wow, that's a great item, but I can't take it. You would be able to get a lot of damage out of using a shield and also a lot of health. And it was, that was prior to melees being introduced. There were a lot of different things that made it really work. So it's been a time. Dead Cells is a game that has been changed up and all. I was 1 kill away from getting in the 30 kills door. Ah, dang. Da beans. No, well. Here's the thing. They apparently have changed up the YOLO mutation to now not only give you a single hit point of health. That was, in fact, not an intentional change. It was a glitch that happened to manifest itself in the alpha. But apparently that has been changed and is working now. So, I don't know. It feels like, especially with the sort of insanity with the sort of fire that I'm playing with right now, it's like that I should probably be taking that more than anything else. Maybe switch it out for your... got it. Switch it out for your standard type of alienation acceptance, which, because it still don't really get too much for actual... That's actually very nice. You still don't get too much for actual survival when it comes to tactics. I know, survivability. What am I trying to say here? God, I really don't like this, but like I said, if I can get away with not using a potion charge, I will. Groups of enemies can be taken out very easily as long as I'm able to get a parry. God. Stupid slow enemies. Move faster. Yeah, I mean, this is the great thing about this weapon. It does, especially with the shock now, work as some sort of, like, I guess you could describe it as like a mobile bleed shield, which is amazing. And I think that sort of thing, that's exactly what I'm looking for. It's hard to set up. And if you like parry a little bit early, then suddenly you're... Yeah. Then suddenly you just shock the enemy and you're not doing nearly as much damage as you possibly could. It is good for taking out a huge group of enemy because of how the damage over time... how damage over time has gotten like a few new identities now in the game where like bleed will activate after so many stacks and stuff like the poison spreading to other enemies after it expires. It's like, that's all cool and everything, but I don't know. I still am kind of like I still have yet to see like some really obvious good examples of usages of that damage over time. As of right now, it's just I'm using it to deal damage. And whatever sort of extra benefits I'm getting from it, I haven't really noticed, I guess is the best way to put it. So maybe shock is going to be a lot more obvious, but I'm also already applying it to a huge area around me as it is. I'm already applying it to a huge area around me as it is, so it's a little hard to see like the extra damage that enemies are shocked are doing near each other. That said, you can already see that it's like kind of getting used to the style of what the run is. It's already starting to turn around in my favor. Now the question is, am I going to die before I can really get it to turn around in my favor? Because that's what I'm worried about. Oh man. I was gonna try. I was like thinking, hey, let's try parrying the bat, and it's like, it only took like a fraction of a second, but even I realized what a stupid idea that would have been. All right. Yeah, there's like the poison going around to other enemies, but I don't know. I really thought I was gonna get hit there, and that would have been the end, baby. Usually don't really think of these runs being this stressful, but it's such a weird one, and I'm having trouble getting used to it. Like I said, alienation acceptance is probably going to be the point where, first off, I heal up for the most part, and then suddenly it's going to, like, hugely turn in my favor. Bam, let's go. Oh, good item get, too, right off the bat. I'm actually nearing 60 kills. I don't know. I mean, I still really want to believe in this run, but oh my god, it's just... the stress. Ooh, well, I don't know how this is gonna work, but I guess hopefully I find some form of healing before I leave here, because otherwise, how even? It's gonna be the 60. I think that's oh, that is a 60. That's actually already the 60. Cool. Great. I mean, I could go try to just do the, just do it perfect. Forehead, but I don't know about that. Hey, sure. I mean, I've already thrown out the rules for a couple things as they exist, vis-a-vis using, like, the Hokuto's bow. And, I mean, so I think that I am justified, like, maybe getting a little bit of an advantage using my old standby, the owl, for right now. Technically, it's still not banned, so... And you can tell how certain I was of its non-banned status from the way that my voice cracked there. There it was. Okay, and straight up, I am also gonna... Yep, the old problem with enemies, the old problem with enemies not being able to be hit by weird overhead things. Well, I guess I'm gonna go do the challenge rift now. It is a very tiny weapon for being tactics. I mean, it is tactics. It is definitely scaling with tactics, but I don't even know what to think. Well, hey, as all poison heals instead of wounding you say? Well, how often do you actually get to use that? Look, don't get me wrong. I don't want to. I guess what I should have done was I should have actually come in here with 0 hit points. Would have been better than just dying. Well, but of course, how could I have possibly seen that I was going to get some sort of major healing in here? In here, of all places. I was hoping for, I don't know, like a piece of watermelon or a piece of even infected watermelon would have been acceptable, but nah, not so much. Oh well. Hey, if I die, we'll come back here, and I already feel like I kind of got the whole idea of how I want to do this, so it's like it should be easier to get back up here without dying, basically. There. And come on, there's got to be some sort of poison around here. Ah, good, good, good. And I am going to cut this out of the video. What, about 12 minutes into it? Gotcha. Alright, well that took a while, but I'm back and I am ready to continue on with the run, even though I did seriously give some consideration to just restarting the entire thing and maybe not having a useless mutation slot. Oh well, I think it's important to stick with your mistakes. I mean, those are what make us human, after all, right? Do I even want to? It is a pretty sizable increase in damage. 616 versus 506 shock damage. Yeah, I'll do that because it's not like I'm going to be getting too much usage out of the whole 100 or 300% on your next hit ability. Unless I really wanted to start using this Hokuto's bow actively. Which, I mean, you can. As long as I have hit one of the enemies first, it's like it can do extra damage. Sure, the base damage isn't very good, but it gets buffed up by its own buff. Look, it's the sort of thing that makes it such a good weapon in the first place. But you don't need to hear me talk about any more about that. I don't know. Yeah, it's too bad because really, I guess what I guess I am not gonna have to go for the. I guess I'm not gonna have to go for like alienation acceptance anymore. But I don't know what would possibly work. Maybe like crow's feet. Crow's feet is the only mutation that I'm thinking about right now that might, slowing down enemies would make it a little bit better, except slowing it down might be worse for me just because I'm not going to get the parries in quite... Yeah, the parry time is going to be a little bit different, and that's a problem. Oh, well. In the meantime, God, I really got to clear out of the sewers. This is not a good place to be. Especially, I mean, this wasn't a good place to start with, but for some reason I came in here anyway. Although, thinking about it, the conjunctivitis fight might not be terrible. Neither would the tick fight if I decide to go for that. Though, yeah, I think tick fight is kind of off the table as of right now. Would have need to have gone to some other location to even make that possible right now. There, and just gotta make sure that I get one parry. A single parry will set me up to kill a huge amount of enemies as I kind of continue on with the game. That's the basic order of events that I need to do here. Just to get one parry and then start wildly firing around the Hokuto's bow, which is usually the opposite of how you want to do that. You know, you usually want to hit the Hokuto's bow first, but here, not so much. I could have actually probably used that, because that is a lot of extra health that I need right now. It's not looking great, but at the same time, it could be worse still. You know, I just take acceptance and hope that I don't get hit too much. Eventually, it's going to get to the point where I'm going to want to switch out every one of my mutations anyway, so I guess I might as well start with one that'll at least give me the good combination that I need to survive later on. Okay, I'll take it. Sure, not going to have the extra fire, but if anything, I'd like to say that having that fire is kind of messing with the whole stylings of this run in the first place. What I want to do is I want to make sure that, you know, nah. What am I even thinking? Don't do that. Now, get everything into the water. And there we go. Now, Hokuto's bow and go. It is very effective. It even hits enemies through walls. Actually, a lot like the comparison that I was making earlier, the Blood Shield. And that's one of the really good things about this. It's just, you know, of course, Blood Shield is also something that's like 1,000 times easier to get compared to the... come on. Blood Shield is also like something that's 1,000 times easier to get compared to the Thunder Shield. I mean, yeah, here's the thing. Even if this does turn out to be a very good combination and is like actually, you know, something that you want to take into most runs you end up doing, you do, of course, run into the whole issue of this is an item only available on 5-cell mode, which is, I don't know. That's one of those things that I think is kind of frustrating. I always want to see Motion Twin add in some sort of way to actually get to the to get to the 5-cell area, in other mode types, because as it exists right now, it is really locked. There are a lot of items that are not like overpowered or anything, and some items that are entirely locked behind, you know, having beating the game on the hardest difficulty possible. There's that, and there's that. So I don't know. Poison has no effect on you. Poison enemies will wound you. A lot of poison, but a very poison-rich run so far. I guess that's good, but I'm not going to worry too much about it, really. I mean, it's not like I'm going to be seeing a whole lot more poison as I continue on with the game. Yeah, that's... Can't say I didn't see that coming, though. Well, it's actually taken me quite a few runs to get back to this point again. I'm kind of doubting the effectiveness of this type of build. Even though I like its style, it does have some real issues when it comes to waiting to attack enemies, and just the way that I think you're probably better off just, say, letting a turret or, you know, a number of other more active builds deal with your foes here. So, I don't know. I mean, maybe this is something that it's like it does require a little bit of waiting and seeing. It does seem quite powerful when you get to work, but as you can see with my, with the way that, like, the Toxic Miasma is just getting stunned. Like, the way that you have to, like, wait for stuff to actually attack in the first place and then, you know, deal with that, I don't know. This might actually be some sort of build to return to, because I still really do like the idea of trying to effectively use a shield against enemies. It's just, I don't know about this one. Also just the amount of enemies that are, like, not super easy to parry with stuff. Oh, man. The explosions are not working out super well for me. Okay, I think I'm good. Kind of. Yeah, you see, the thing is, it's like with this sort of, with these sort of enemies that I'm fighting right now, if I just had like a build that just had a regular attack, I wouldn't be trying to like get parries or lead them into the water. And, you know, I suppose here's the thing. It's a real super gimmicky build, and it's kind of questionable effectiveness as you would expect out of a super gimmicky build. So basically what I'm thinking is that I am going to try to go for one more attempt at this particular build, and if it's ineffective, I'm just gonna call it an episode. So this one might be a little bit shorter than normal, but at the same time, hey, we're still not quite in the time of getting back to proper showcase runs just yet. Being that the new update is in beta, it should be any time now, but I've also spent like 3 hours just trying to get back up to this point in the first place with things that you've just seen basically ending the run over and over. Wave of Denial could actually be kind of effective. Same thing with Wings of the Crow, but I don't know if that's something I really want to mess around with trying to make work right now. No, if I was going to try to mess around with something, switch out this for a little bit more electricity. Although this isn't good. Okay. Thankfully, it only forms in that half circle. So, yeah. Come on. There's good reason why I took Dead Inside right now. I was taking an awful lot of damage with, you know, simple hits otherwise. I think you might be able to parry those, but with that sort of thing happening, it's harder to kind of test it out. Toxic miasmas are very, very difficult to deal with, which I don't think anybody can possibly argue. Oh, come on. Oh, this place is still a nightmare to try to go through. All right, good. Explorer's instinct, thank you. Maybe I'll get something good for the, you know, last second fight against Toxic miasma. Or, well, no, Great Elevore isn't even all that good. Alright, well, let's continue on here. Certainly, it does seem like this is quite good at taking out huge groups of enemies, but only huge groups of enemies that that you can manage to get a parry against first. Yeah, you know, maybe the real place you should be using this is on lower cell difficulty, because as of right now, you know, 5 cell does have its own issues, and that's kind of where a lot of the problems are coming in. As it is, I'm still going to continue to take the most defensive type of mutations that I possibly can and see how it works out from here, because it is absolutely a time that I think this is going to be effective. Just got to make sure that I'm not cursing myself in a bad location. Although now without toxic miasmas to attack me, it should be a little bit easier. Just a little bit. And sure, I'll probably eventually want to save up for another potion charge, because as I get a little bit farther into the game, it shouldn't be as big of a deal to like I was saying the last time that I was going for a tactics-based build, the idea that you are only going to ever be able to use one potion in a fight because of disengagement shouldn't be true anymore. I hope. We'll see, I suppose. If I do manage to find a cursed chest, that would also be another good way to get some healing up here, because I gotta take those. Can't avoid that sort of thing after all. All right, as it is 8, and is that one more? Good. It's starting to look a little bit better, and then when I get into the boss fight, I think I should actually have a pretty good time. There's a lot of good opportunities to parry like a lot of the conjunctivious attacks, and then all you got to do is just be within range of her. Maybe it'll just turn out that this is a much better build for me going up against bosses compared to, you know, regular enemies. Although that's kind of, you know, the whole like huge range is the entire part of trying to use this sort of build for a period, because it hits a lot of enemies, or at least should be able to. All right, come on. Parry time, man. Of course, that's just me being choke master once again. Sure, 75% damage reduction is probably the sort of thing that will save my life eventually. Good, and yep, it's such a good idea in concept. I do really like this build. It's just not working out for me as a problem. And I'm making all the excuses I possibly can, but I'm also probably just playing badly too. Do that, do this. Ultimately, I do think that you do also get like a lot of the same usage, though with a pretty hefty cooldown from using the magnetic grenade. It is why I ended up trying to take it right here, because you know, you still get shock, you still get that huge damage over time and everything, but you don't have to. But you wouldn't need to entirely forsake a main hand weapon that would be able to do a lot of damage at the same time. I don't know. There's a little bit more time in the oven. Maybe, like I said, maybe I'll end up returning to this run and finding something. Oh, come on.